Hello everybody! This video is going to be a bit more casual because I'm going to talk about how I usually learn languages, and so from my experience, my top 5 tips how you can learn a language quickly. And before we start, I want to say that learning a language is not easy. It's quite hard, especially if it's a difficult language or if it's a language that is very different from your native language or from the languages that you already speak. So don't expect miracles here. Don't expect things to happen right now. You need to work hard to learn a language. That's true. No miracles here. And so let's start with my tip number 1. Study every day. As I like saying, 5-10 minutes a day is better than nothing. So if you study even 5 minutes every day, it's better than studying nothing at all. Because if you study even 5-10 minutes, you will progress. If you don't study, you won't progress. That's pretty logical, isn't it? Try to dedicate at least half an hour a day or 10 minutes a day to studying a language or practicing the words or memorizing the words, practicing new constructions, doing exercises, doing anything, but doing something every day. Actually, it's easy and hard at the same time. Well, it seems a bit quite logical and stupid to say so, but it's true. I'll explain why. For example, when I did my 10-day Korean challenge, I had to study every day, but also I had to record myself every day. So after every day, I had to record what I've learned during the day. It was a bit annoying actually because sometimes I didn't have mood to record myself, or I didn't want to, practice again all these constructions. I wanted just to let my brain assimilate all the new material. But I also found out that it was quite hard to dedicate some time every day to studying that. Still, I was dedicating 1.5 hours at least, and 2 hours, sometimes 4 hours a day. So of course it's not the same to dedicate 2 hours and to dedicate 5 minutes. But still, one of the biggest problems that I found in myself is to do something regularly every day. Because I'm quite impulsive and I like spending a lot of time doing something that I'm really passionate about. And for me it's very difficult to know the limits and also to be creating routines to that. Also, as I've said before, I'm a person of inspiration, so if I'm not inspired or I don't have mood to do something, it's very difficult. But still, I think it's good training for your mind and it's good training for your character and for your strength of will to dedicate some time every day. I did my 10-day Korean challenge, I succeeded, I learned pretty much, and I'm super proud and super happy about that. And actually I try to dedicate some time every day to learning some of the key languages that I'm interested in right now, and also to practice some of the languages that I already know. But it's difficult, it's not easy, so be prepared for that. My tip number 2 is write down all the rules, words, do all the exercises that are indicated in the book or in the course that you are following. Please don't be lazy. Some language learners think that if they only hear the material, for example, if they only attend a class or listen to an online course without writing it down, they can memorize the material pretty well because they have a good memory and they don't have problems memorizing things. But it's just wrong. It's wrong to think so. You have to write down everything because you won't remember at least 70% of the material if you don't write it down. And even if you write it down, 40% of the material will just be swept away. Of course it's so, and it's very important to write down everything you can, and in this way you also practice writing and also you memorize faster. And besides, you have the notes, and this is especially important if you, for example, attend a class. You need to write notes. Don't be lazy, I repeat. My tip number 3 is a bit related to tip number 2, but is more specific, and it's write all the new words in a separate notebook. That's what I usually do. For example, with Korean, I'm going to show you right now. I have here my notebook of Korean, and I write here, well, the alphabet, all the explanations that were in the online course that I'm doing. So some of the new words, some explanations, some phrases, some texts, you can see different material. But not the new words, because for the new words I have another notebook, it's this one. And here I write only the new words with translations, and I can take the notebook with me and practice the new words. For example, I did so with Chinese when I was flying to other places, so I was taking only the notebook that is not so thick, so you can actually take it with you unless you're traveling for months with small backpack. But if it's a short trip and you have space to take a small book to read, you have space to take a small notebook to read as well. So I was taking, for example, the Chinese notebook with the Chinese characters and Chinese words, and for example, instead instead of sleeping, because I can't usually sleep on planes. I don't know, it's not so easy for me. So, not to be bored, I was just practicing Chinese characters, or just memorizing, or just reading and trying to pronounce in my head. But you can do that, and you can dedicate some time of that, and it's not so difficult actually as it seems. So for example, when you're going by metro somewhere, or if you're going by bus somewhere, for example, even a 10-minute journey, in 10 minutes you can practice or memorize a lot of words. So it's a very good practice. I advise that. My tip number 4 is once again related with the tip number 3, and it's repeat all the material several times. I know that a lot of people, for example, especially when they do a course, well, I understand, they pay a course, so of course you don't want to repeat the course and pay again the same. It's better to pay the same and do the next course. I understand that. But if you're studying on your own, and for example you're doing an online course, which is usually free, or you're just following a book, or if you're following just a YouTube channel, I advise you to repeat the material, not to hurry up to go to the next level, because in my opinion, the basis is the most important in anything, be it sports, music, art, or languages. It's crucial to have the stable and strong basis. So don't hurry up to learn more difficult constructions. Try to focus more time on learning the basic constructions, the basic things, the basic words. And maybe when you go to the more difficult constructions, more difficult levels, it will be easier to learn that than otherwise. But here you have two options. Of course, you can repeat the material using the same materials that you've just used, like, for example, using the same book and just redoing it again. Well, it's a good idea because probably you'll memorize more and you will remember more things. But the best thing, I think, would be to use another kind of material. For example, if you did an online course, like I did with Chinese and Korean, the next thing would be to do the same in a book. For example, here I have the book of Korean. And yes, sometimes I take a look and I revise some basic materials of Korean that I learned in the online course, but also some things that I didn't learn, and it's a good practice. It's like repeating the same but using different material. If you have more money that you can spend on some private classes, it's a good idea also to take a private teacher. That's what I did with Chinese. I did an online course first, and then I took private classes, and then I repeated again with a book. So I repeated the elementary level 3 times, and it was a good experience because in all the materials that you use there are slightly different things, slightly different grammar exercises, and even the vocabulary sometimes is different. So it's good to repeat the material so you memorize faster. Remember, repetition is key to learning. And my final tip number 5 is surround yourself with the environment of the language. And I don't mean just going to the country, but of course it's a perfect way if you go to the country and you can actually be in the environment. It's the best. But here is a trick, and be careful with that. Don't think that if you go to the country, you're going to learn the language easily just because you're there. No, it's not going to happen that easily. And some people, for example, take English courses in England or in Ireland, and they think that they're going to learn just because they are there. But you know what happens? Because they go there with friends or with people from their own country. So they hang out with them because they speak the same language, they are similar, they have the same mentality, and they speak only the language that they know. They don't learn the new language, and it's like a waste of money and time because they come back with zero knowledge of the language, because they've been the whole time hanging out with people from the country and speaking their own language. In my opinion, it's just stupid to do that, especially if you pay an expensive course. I mean, at least hang out with people from other countries and practice the language, but not with people from your country and practice your language. It's just nonsense in my opinion. I don't want to be very strict about that, but I think there is no need to do that. And actually, I truly believe that there is no need to go to a country to learn a language. You can, especially nowadays in the technological world, you can learn the language at home. We have YouTube channels, we have videos, we have audios, we have music, we have books. Everything is accessible. The only question is, are you gonna do anything about that? So my tip here would be, try to read books, try to listen to music, try to watch films or series in the original, maybe with subtitles in your language at first, then you can switch to the subtitles of the language. You can also change the language on the mobile phone or in the computer. You can find a pen friend or a person who wants to learn the same language as you, so you can just chat in this language and so you practice it. There are different ways of of surrounding yourself with the environment of the language, and it's not necessarily going to the country. Don't misunderstand me, you can do it perfectly well being in your country at your home. And that's it. As you can see, there are no miracles, everything is pretty logical and known for you. I'm sure that you know all these tips already. The only question is, are you gonna follow them?